Good morning, everyone. You can hear me, Ajay?
Yep.
Okay, very good morning to all. A very good morning and a very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists and to our moderator and to Aman. Thank you for all being here. We actually are all online. Mr. Subhash Desai just requested for a few-minute break, but he will be joining us very, very soon. But in the interest of time and the fact that the audience is waiting with bated breath to hear wise words from our esteemed panelists, I'll badge on. So the pandemic continues. We battle through it, uh, regardless of the problems it's created, all the battering it has given us. The battered the peace, the lives of so many people. It has battered the theories and economic tools which we used to underpin the world edifice so far. But nevertheless, we go on. I must say that pandemic has thrown up a lot of new phrases like chartering the unchartered, normalizing the abnormal, and then people giving very interesting bits of advice and remarks like Rajiv Kumar said yesterday. Efforts to do something. There are 8 marks for the method and 2 for the result. As long as there is an endeavor to try and sort out issues and resolve problems, it's a good thing. I will not talk about the subject so much. I'll leave that to the moderator, Dilip. But what is key, and I would request the panelists to focus on, is the trust building that must now happen with great speed between the states and the centers. It's the states where all the action is at the end of the day, and this trust building must move from Delhi to the states. Bridging the trust between the center and the states has become very, very key. And the center also must realize that the states have to be empowered. The states have to have the finances, the resources to deliver on the commitments they have made to their populace. And those are the things that basically underpin. Let me start by introducing the panelists very quickly. Detailed CVs have been circulated to the audience, so I won't go into all those details, but I will talk about Mr. K.T. Rama Rao, Cabinet Minister for Industries, IT, urban development, etc. I don't think there are many departments left that he doesn't handle. All the key economic departments are with him. To Sidharth Nath Singh, who's again the Cabinet Minister of Uttar Pradesh and who has been the Health Minister in the past, is currently the Minister for MSME, which is very, very key for the future of India. He's also the Minister in charge for UP exports, UP investments, Sericulture, and many other things. Mr. Subhash Desai, who's also the Minister for Industry and Mining, and I'll call him, like R.V. Deshpande used to be in Bangalore, the eternal Industry Minister, because whenever his party is in power, he is the Industry Minister. What is common amongst these speakers is that they all are good orators. They all have a commitment to time, a commitment to obligations they make, the decision making, the speed, which they employ, and all of them are grassroots level politicians. So today, my request to all of you would be, once you start, is to borrow new apologies to Shakespeare, a phrase from Macbeth, where the 3 ladies who used to, I'm calling them ladies, who use a broomstick to travel, said, Macbeth, be bloody, bold, and resolute. I'm changing the meanings of these words, not as it was said in Macbeth, but this is the time for the states to employ, be decisive, do things as fast as you can. There is no time left. And with those words, I would pass it on now to Dilip Chenoy, who I have not actually talked about, but a very quick word about him, a man of boundless energy. It got etched into my memory many, many years back at the trade fair at Pragati Maidan, where there was a problem on the stage, and I think it was a troupe from Meghalaya who were to perform, and suddenly this young man leapt onto the stage and he was just running around, and very quickly he was able to sort out the things. That's the Dilip Chenoy that is very well etched in my mind. So Dilip, with those few words, over to you to moderate this very interesting session, which I hope it will be. So thank you.
Thank you, Raman, and a very good morning and a very warm welcome to the Honorable Ministers. This session, as Raman said, is session with states and invested in India. As he mentioned, in a federal democracy like India, states play a very crucial role in building growth. It is very interesting that the 4 states represented here account for nearly 35% of the country's GDP. So they're very significant states. There is the youngest state and there is the largest state. There's the most industrialized state and there's a fast-growing state. So it's a very interesting combination of industry ministers here. The idea was that we will just have an opening statement by all the guests, starting with Mr. K.T. Rama Rao, and then have Mr. Sidharth Singh and Mr. Subhash Desai when he joins, and then we have a message from Saurabhbhai Patel. After that, we'll have a round of questions and then questions from the audience. So the initial comments would be about 5 to 7 minutes, if it's okay. With that, I think each state is looking at attracting investments, improving the ease of doing business. And of course, it is very interesting that, at this juncture, when I invite Mr. K.T. Rama Rao to address, not only did he face the challenge of COVID, but currently they are facing a very different challenge in terms of the heavy rains, and the ministry and the government is doing exemplary work there. So I want to compliment you for the efforts that you have done. And may I invite you to make your opening statement to this group. Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, Dilip. Thank you, Ajay, for inviting me. And thank you, Raman. And to all my fellow panelists, Sidharth ji, Subhash Desai ji, and to Aman and everybody else on the podium, the virtual podium. My namaskars. Good morning to all of you. As was correctly pointed out by Raman, I think this pandemic has really put in a lot of things in perspective. One of which I firmly believe is that after 7 to 8 months of this pandemic now making its presence felt in India, the time has come for all of us to start looking at changing the narrative. Because, in my humble personal opinion, and this is purely personal opinion, I believe we have done reasonably well compared to the rest of the world in terms of tackling the pandemic, in terms of our recovery rates, in terms of our abilities, and in terms of the fact that we had to, balance out our legacy medical infrastructure inadequacies with the current pandemic and our unpreparedness. I think we've done reasonably well. We can certainly all agree on the fact that, while a dreadful, nightmarish scenario was painted, I think country has really done rather well. All the governments, the states, the center, all of us have collectively worked together. I think now the time has come for all of us to start changing the narrative. I think that should be the focus, because I think we have spooked not just us, but I think the world has spooked itself too much. And, a fear psychosis that has gripped the entire world. I think we need to start looking at avenues and ways and means to start changing the narrative. That being said, how do we do it? I think the way out of this crisis, the way out of this pandemic would have to be, like Raman again pointed out, states will have to be empowered, states will have to take the lead. And, we can all agree that while Government of India is largely responsible for the overarching policy, the real action is, of course, in a federal republic with the states in the states. So therefore, I think empowerment of states with respect to, economic activity and further expansion in terms of industrialization shall be the key. In fact, Honorable Prime Minister had asked us last year as to what needs to be done. He had called all political parties and presidents of all political parties on the 19th of June, 2019. I was fortunate enough to attend that meeting on behalf of my political party. And I had only told him 3 things. I said, sir, 75 years of independence, and India, if it really has to reinvent itself, I think the 3I mantra is the key. Innovation, infrastructure, inclusive growth. I think that's what we ought to be looking at even now. More and more investment in infrastructure, more and more encouragement of innovation, the culture of innovation, and most importantly, inclusive growth, rural, urban, women, men, etc., etc. An inclusive approach to ensuring that all of us are in this together. Now, coming to my state, the youngest state in Indian Union, the state of Telangana, we've been fortunate to have a very decisive leader leading us. Honorable Chief Minister Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao is one of the most decisive and progressive leaders in India today. He's in fact led from the front on many accounts And he, in fact, believes in one simple mantra when it comes to industrial relations. He believes in the mantra of trust and respect. We are the first state in India to have introduced a self-certification program for our investors. So an investor can self-certify themselves as being in compliance with the law of the land and can start their construction activity or can then start their business on day one without any clearance from the government. This is the first of its kind benchmarking policy that we have come out with about 6 years ago. And this policy is called as the TSI Pass, in line with all the easy passes we pass through, when we go through toll gates. The TSI Pass is similarly built. It's called the Telangana State Industrial Project Approval Self-Certification System. In the last 6 years after this policy has been launched, we are fortunate that we've been able to attract $28 billion of investment. More importantly, out of the $28 billion committed, more than 80% have already started operations, and the remaining 20% are in various stages of commencing operations. That I think that conversion ratio is extremely important, because while we may get commitments, while we may have MOUs signed, it's equally important to have them deliver and create employment and wealth for our people. More importantly, in fact, I'm extremely proud and happy to share with you that out of these $28 billion of investment, 23% have come from our existing investors. This is typically a number which most states do not measure and monitor, because it's very, very important to have your existing investors happy, because they can then be your biggest brand ambassadors across the world. In terms of promoting, promoting goodwill and good faith and a good word, putting in a good word for you where needed across the world. And I also take a lot of pride in sharing with you a couple more things, and then I'll conclude. As a state, Telangana, in fact, is home to a number of marquee companies. Let me quickly say that, we are currently, if you look at the top 5 most valued tech companies of the world, all 5 of them, without an exception, have their second largest base outside of their headquarters in Telangana. In fact, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Amazon, their second largest bases outside of their headquarters are here. And Amazon, in fact, their world's largest office is right now in Hyderabad. It's even bigger than their office in Seattle. Not only in information technology, but also in life sciences, we have made rapid strides. Today, Telangana accounts, because we are in the middle of this pandemic, let me point out, we account for more than 35% of the country's bulk drugs and pharmaceutical manufacturing. In fact, let me also share with you, we are currently the vaccine capital of the world, because the world is talking about vaccine. We in India are talking about vaccines. We are the vaccine capital of the world. In fact, if you look at human vaccine production, there is 1 in 3 chance that next time one of your children or grandchildren is getting a vaccine shot, it could have been made in Hyderabad. And let me also quickly point out, not only in life sciences, we also have made our share of have had our share of investments in important sectors like aerospace and defense. I can go on about different sectors, but what I really pride my state doing is we not only attract investment, we also ensure that we handhold, and we have an industrial relations department which does the handholding even through the course of any further problems that might come up, any further issues that might come up during the commencement of operations and thereafter as well. The last 2 things I'd point out, Telangana has done something significant. We in fact talk to our investors and we tell them also that when they have issues that we need to take up with the Delhi government of India, we actually act as an advocate for our investors. We in fact advocate their much needed policy inputs, and we take their much needed policy inputs. We parley with the government of India's key leaders, and we also insist that this is in the interest of the nation, interest of industrialization and employment creation for the nation. And therefore, a lot of our investors have also been extremely comfortable working with us. And the last point I'd like to make, where Telangana again has done something truly significant, is we've created an arm called as Invest Telangana in the lines of Invest India, where we've been able to bring in significant number of people from private sector through a lateral entry, giving them key positions. We are not only dependent on bureaucrats, we also have a significant number of players from private sector who have come in, joined us through lateral entry, and who've been giving us much needed valuable inputs so as to ensure that we remain agile, we remain focused on attracting investments. The really last point I'd like to make, Today, the competition in attracting investments is not between Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Telangana. The competition is really between India and the rest of the world. So while we compete as states within India to really attract investments, it's equally important for us to remember that we also have to elevate our game, elevate our pitch at the national level as well in trying to compete with countries as they move away from China and also other large manufacturing nations. I thank PAFI for this wonderful platform that they've created, and I look forward to hearing from other colleagues as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, for actually starting with the need to change the narrative and then ending so powerfully with saying that it's India versus the rest of the world, and we all have to work together and build the trust to enable us to attract investment in India. I would now like to turn to Mr. Sidharth Singh, the Honorable Minister from UP. And amongst this group, sir, you have the privilege of having the highest ranking in the ease of doing business. You have also started something very innovative on your one district, one product. So may I invite you to make your opening statement?
Thank you, Dilip, and my co-panelists on this virtual platform. I'm happy to hear my good colleague and somebody who does inspire a lot is the K.T. Ramarao, who has spoken so well. And at the same time, my friend, I think it's been decades, that's Raman Sidhu, and Subhash, who's perhaps he may have joined by now, and other panelists and those who are participating on this PAFI platform. Well, certainly Uttar Pradesh did miss a bus of being the development agenda of Uttar Pradesh. But since 2017, we became the new bloc of India's development agenda with a very conscious focus that if India does need to go into a double digit, then a 24 crore population and being the largest state geographically cannot miss out in supporting India's efforts in becoming one of the leading manufacturing countries in the world and with a double-digit GDP. So that's where we began our journey in 2017, and under the leadership of our dynamic Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath. But at the same time, we had many targets to achieve. It was like a scratch, but we sat together and we worked out that there's no point reinventing the wheel. There is a wheel which has been successfully, with hard work, invented by many states. One of the states is Telangana, who's there, and Gujarat, and certainly there are other states like Karnataka and all. So we said, let's take the best from there. At that point of time, I was in the team, but I was also the health minister. So particularly, I went down to South, including Tamil Nadu and Andhra and Telangana, to see the health facilities. So we brought from there the best of the technologies which are being used in the health sector. So we realized that we have to catch up, and that's where our journey began. And certainly the target was always ease of doing business. And with the ease of doing business, something that the Prime Minister has been focusing is the ease of living also. So there was a social sector. So we came up with an agenda that was basically a 5-pointed agenda, which was to develop the infrastructure. The second was, I would rather say it was the first, but that is UP was commonly not known well for law and order, and certainly the organized crime. So we had to set that right, and I'm happy that we have been able to set it right. And then it was education, health, and backed by a good industrial policy. No investment will come in any state if you don't have an infrastructure, law and order, educational system, or a good health system. So we started working on all these things on a war footing, backed by our industrial policies. But for that also, we realized that what is the world looking at? And when we looked at the world, we realized that gradually everything is moving towards the sustainable development goals which has been set by United Nations. Something which was forgotten, but it was taking shape. And certainly after the pandemic, I think sustainability is the key. narrative in international trade rather than competition or the price war. So we decided at that point to address that, and we held a 3-day special session. UP was the only state which held a 3-day special session beginning on 2nd of October to mark Mahatma Gandhi's centenary, 150th centenary. And we picked up all these 17 issues, 16 were applicable to Uttar Pradesh, and we said that based on our discussions within the House and outside stakeholders, we brought our new industrial investment and employment policy backed by sectoral policies, which were 21 of them. And certainly they have some of the good policy parameters which have been introduced by many states. I said in the beginning, we never wanted to reinvent a wheel. We went with the wheel, and therefore we were able to catch up quickly. And we brought in a Nivesh portal and Nivesh Mitra, which was launched by the Prime Minister, single window, truly a single window system. And today it's been recognized, and Nivesh Mitra has helped us to jump our ranks, 10 ranks, to become the second in the country so quickly in last 3 years, to be on ease of doing business, where UP was never being considered. But at the same time, we also realized on the pattern of Invest India, UP created Invest UP. We let go our Udyog Bandhu, and that's a very professional, chaired by the Chief Minister, along with I'm the Vice Chairman, and other lateral professionals also included in that. But UP being such a large state with a high density of population, there was a need to do bringing about a logistic change, and that needed a massive infrastructure boost. So we worked on to bring about the Bundelkhand Expressway. That's an area which has high potential, particularly if you look at the solar energy. 20 gigawatts of solar plant is being put up there now, and we needed that to be connected with rest of UP. So along with that, we brought up Purvanchal, that's the eastern part of UP. And at the same time, from the western side, we have started building the Ganga Expressway, all along the Ganga, which goes up to the Varanasi. With all this network and previous governments putting in Taj Expressways and Yamuna Expressway, so UP has a massive road expressway network, I can proudly say. But we realize it's UP being the fifth, if it is a country, it's the fifth largest country of the world. So therefore, we brought in 11 low-frill airports, which are functional. And today, we had only 2 international airports. We have added 2 more, which is added to Varanasi and Lucknow. We have added Kushinagar and also Gorakhpur. So we have 4 international airports. 5th international airport will be the largest airport in Asia, that is the Jewar Airport, which has been handed over to Zurich. So all this put together with that both the east and the west dedicated freight corridor. So perhaps being a landlocked state, the disadvantage we always had, we have overcome that disadvantage, supported with our export policy, which is a new export policy we have introduced, which incentivizes being a landlocked state. So we have been addressing all these issues from time to time. And tourism is something which we realize has a huge potential in Uttar Pradesh. And beginning from Diwali Utsav in Ayodhya, with Diya Diwali, we started, it was streamed on Facebook and Google, which had more than, in the first go, it had more than 100 million hits. So something we realized that this has a potential with a Pravasi or NRIs, which are roughly about, it's been said, it's about 4.8 million UP NRIs. So that backed us. We said that's an attraction. And today with the Supreme Court giving the judgment on Ram Mandir, the way we are making Ram Mandir, well, it is for the devotees also, but at the same time, we do realize it has a huge tourism potential. So we are backing that with all the policies which are required to make it into a great tourist center also. So we do feel that Uttar Pradesh now has already achieved. Last year, we had the highest number of tourists coming into any state. We feel we will be able to attract more than just not domestically, but internationally because of Ayodhya. With our new airport, international airport, that is Kushinagar, which connects the both circuit with, and particularly there is a lot of excitement in South Korea. It is in China, in Thailand, Indonesia. Already our discussions. I'm leading those discussions with their high commissions and the embassies, how to put in a both circuit and the packages in place. So there is going to be a lot of same time, we have also, because we do realize the strength of the MSME, we have brought in an MSME Act. And, well, I would, since I am on the platform, I wouldn't hesitate to, because as my good friend said, we are not in competition with the state. So I must admit that it was KTR who had spoken in a meeting in Delhi. So thank you, KTR, and your officers who helped me to understand your policy of TI's pass, and that helped me also to immediately work on the MSME Act, where within 72 hours, you want to put up any industry under MSME, which is now 250 crores, you are given an NOC, and within next 3 years, that's addition that within next 3 years, you comply and submit all your, no objections. So that's how, and to back that, we have already got 5 flatted factory, logistic parks, which are now being, it's a plug and play. So I'm very happy that UP can offer immediately plug and play system. At the same time, we are coming with 6 MSME parks throughout Uttar Pradesh with 6 textile parks. We are now also coming up one of the largest in Asia, the pharmaceutical park in Bundelkhand, that is in Lalitpur, and that will have their own international airport, which is already now in offing. So there are many things which Uttar Pradesh has taken on forefront to improve the GDP and the manufacturing, and to be the backbone manufacturing hub of India. So we had a lot to catch up, but in last 3.5 years, we set our targets. There's still a lot to achieve. And certainly the pandemic has thrown certain challenges to the country, to India. And I would have a suggestion using your platform, PAFI, and I hope my good colleagues who are very progressive in their thinking would accept that. And perhaps PAFI can organize, or I would request my good colleague Piyush Goyal they can initiate it. We need to compete, no doubt, with the world now. I think there is an opportunity which has come to India, particularly because of pandemic and the way the global supply chain, due to geographical reasons, has been disturbed, that India can grow. Now, the question is, do we still compete within ourselves, or do we take our each strength, add together, initiate a policy framework? If I can't do in UP something, but Telangana can do, or Karnataka can do, or Tamil Nadu can do, why should I make an endeavor to do that activity or track that investment in Uttar Pradesh? And similarly, Telangana should be also looking, or Maharashtra should be also looking. So we can come together. Let's say we pick up only 10 points, 10 industrial or investment agendas. Now, if UP and Tamil Nadu has been given a defense corridor by Government of India, now I am a landlocked state. I cannot be competing in the naval manufacturing. So, but I can help. If anybody comes, I can say, let's go to Tamil Nadu. It is India. At the same time, if somebody in that defense corridor is coming for gun manufacturing or aircraft manufacturing, they say, well, you can still go to Uttar Pradesh. We can also do something. So there is a lot of, exchange that can be brought in. A lot of competition can, cooperation can be brought in, which will help India to compete and the basket is used, the pie is big for all of us to share. So I personally feel we must look at the larger picture. We must look at the larger opportunity that India is getting. We all put together in the federal structure can improve the GDP. We can push the GDP. Rightly said Raman, that it is the states who need to deliver. The center and the states need to cooperate. But I would go a step ahead. Let the states have a healthy competition, but they need to have a cooperative approach in policies and attracting investment in India. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity, and I would love to hear what Subhash ji has to say. And well, then the floor is open.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sidharth Singh, for actually, to learn from the best. Thank you for acknowledging the other states here that you've learned, Telangana. And, very interesting, Telangana and UP are both landlocked states, so they have a different kind of an challenge. But your thing about the cooperation should give way to competition is a very interesting thing and applies everywhere here. And now I would like to actually invite Mr. Subhash Desai, from Maharashtra. And Maharashtra is, of course, the #1 in terms of GDP in the states. They have a long history of industrialization, and also, it has ports there. So, Mr. Desai, over to you for your opening statements for about 7 minutes. Unmute yourself, sir. You have to unmute. Minister Desai, you have to unmute yourself.
You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Of course, we wish to meet each other. This pandemic has certain challenges. So thank you for organizing this wonderful meeting. Maharashtra has been consistently leader on the industrial front. And as rightly mentioned, our contribution in national GDP is 15%. It will still keep growing, I'm sure. Maharashtra is also largest contributor to exports, and system for industrial development has resulted into foreign direct investment inflow is also largest in the state year on year. This is automobile hub. We have created state-of-the-art textile parks, information technology parks, biotechnology parks, and jewelry parks, electronic zone, and now our special pharma park maps, and it will be realized soon. Our Auric city near Aurangabad is world-class industrial township. Whosoever, he immediately falls in love of that township, and we want to repeat this model in other districts also. The skilled manpower has been always the strongest for Maharashtra. As many as 1 million students every year pass out with degrees in their hands from different institutions and universities in the state. To convert this talent into the productive and engines, we have made preparations for further development in industrial and economic regions. The plus is our new idea to cooperate with the investors. They don't have to wait for constructing their own buildings. We are now constructing industrial buildings with the on rentals. So the proportion of investment would be naturally reduced. We have kept almost 40,000 hectares of developed land across the state, and it is readily available now. We have also appointed relationship managers and will continue to appoint for every serious and large size investment. There will be a special who would take care of every issue that comes in the way of future. Mahajobs is another concept, bringing job seekers and the employers on one platform. It is free of cost platform for all the job seekers. So everyone can get to know which are the job opportunities they are unfolding. Any investor who signs agreement with the government, within 48 hours, one master license would be issued. So they don't have to run and visit different offices for gathering the licenses, permits, and clearances. This Mahaparvana will take care of all the departments, and our relationship manager himself would be responsible for ensuring every license required for these industries. After our AC chairs are also clicking now. So many more avenues. Of course, the pandemic has posed very challenging situations, but life cannot stop. Life should go on. And after working from home, now we are directly getting involved in the fields. So we are taking the investors to different places, understanding their concerns, understanding their requirements, and unfolding. So here we are, and our new set of policies. We are also revising our IT policy, electronics policy, and logistics policy. These are the new policies, and not only Maharashtra, but the whole of India would welcome the new concepts which are being unfolded new investors. So investment from other countries and from India is looking forward to, and here we have kept ready complete ecosystem. Officials are ever to share the ideas, the new concepts, the technological advances with the probable investors. So with these words, I once again thank you, Mr. Raman, Sidhu, and other dignitaries, Mr. Chenoy, and just listen to Sidharth Nath Singh ji. And thank you so much. Would like to understand your suggestions to take our country to the newer height. Thank you very much. Jai Maharashtra.
Thank you, Mr. Minister Desai, for really that address and saying what Maharashtra is doing and how you intend to attract further investment. And you know, we are actually right throughout the pandemic, you were really batting for industry and opening up the manufacturing and services in industry in Maharashtra, despite the different states. So thank you very much for that. We would now like to actually move to an address by Mr. Saurabh Patel. And immediately after that, I'm going to come back to the panel.
Good morning, everyone. The next 10 years is of India. And in India, one state which is poised to grow is the state of Gujarat. If you look at the last 15, 20 years, Gujarat is the one state in India which has had a consistently a double-digit growth rate. Since the year 2000, when our Honorable Prime Minister was the Chief Minister in the state of Gujarat, and even today under the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Vijay Rupani, we are having this achievement which no other state has it. And why so? The reason is very simple. The environment in Gujarat for investments is different. People think about business. Government thinks of promoting business. Government thinks of building up infrastructure and also brings in policies by which new investments come in the state of Gujarat. Now, if you look at the companies which have come, you look at the sectors, all these sectors whom we have promoted have become hubs. Say like automobiles, you have the best of companies, Maruti, Ford, Honda, and you can name it. And all in the last 5 to 7 years, you talk of pharmaceuticals, huge investments from all the companies is in the state of Gujarat. And today, the exports of pharma products is also big. You look at chemicals, you look at textiles, you look at ceramics, you look at diamonds, and you see the sectors which we are also promoting. Huge job employment is created because of the skill development which we have. Now, what is more important is that all the companies which have invested in the state of Gujarat are further putting in more money in the state of Gujarat. You talk petrochemicals, whether it is Reliance or whether it is the Russians who have just invested in Jamnagar, or whether it is in the steel business, Arsenal, Mittal, in Azira, all are going and are investing more and more money in the existing investments. Look of automobile companies, even Maruti, or you name it. And why so? Because the cost of production in the state of Gujarat is lower than in other states. This is because of the skilled manpower, nearness to the port, the development of the ports, the way we have built up infrastructure to reduce cost, and the nearness to the market, I mean the domestic market or to the world market. So this helps the existing companies to invest. And finally, the most important thing is the business environment policies of the state government. Even after GST, we know that once the manufacturing goes out of the state, the revenues also goes out of the state. But still we are giving more incentives to the manufacturing sector because it creates jobs and also for the country. Also, new areas have also been identified in the new policies. We are also trying to work out by which our underdeveloped areas or other areas which require more industries, we are giving more incentives for them. We have identified big estates. First time we have decided to give government land to industries on a long-term lease. And every sector, whether it is labor, whether it is finance, whether it is energy, we work like a big team. There are so many things which Gujarat is proud of. The ports we are proud of, because 40% of Gujarat's country's cargoes goes to the ports of Gujarat. The gas grid. No state has got a gas grid. And a clean fuel gives a better quality of product in many sectors. So for ceramics. Ceramics, we have a 2 lakh crore turnover of the industry and a 20,000 crores of export every year because of this clean fuel. Every district is connected with the gas pipeline, which no state in the country has. The energy sector 24/7 started long time back, and only state who consistently since the last 8 to 10 years have the first 4 discoms, 1, 2, 3, and 4 by the center, the best performing discoms awards comes to us. So under the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri Vijay Virupani, we are sure that Gujarat is going to excel in all ways, cutting down costs for the industry, a good business environment, single window clearance, and all the things required by the industry to put in fresh investments is most welcome in the state. So I invite all the participants who are looking out for investments in India to come and invest in the state of Gujarat. I am sure you will never feel sorry for your decision, because what we say, if you sign an MOU, you come down and invest. We have hardly found an investor going to another state after investing in India. That is the confidence we have in our abilities for bringing in more money in the state of Gujarat. All of you are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel, for that address. I've received a few questions, so I think let me just take that question back for in the next 5-6 minutes. I think coming to Honorable Minister, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, I think one of the questions is that in your address, you talked about the pass for new investors and for other things, and for the companies that have invested in the state and are doing further investments. The question is that what is the state doing for companies who are actually invested in the state but may not want to actually further invest and just want to remain at the size they are, but they want less of interference from government, etc. So what is the state doing about ease of doing business or the cost of doing business for existing businesses? To unmute, sir, please.
Am I audible, Dilip ji? Okay. First, let me thank Sidharth ji. He's been very complimentary in his opening remarks. Many thanks, Sidharth ji. You've been very kind and very generous in your compliments. Thank you, sir. Before I go to your question, Dilip, let me just quickly point out 2 things responding to what Sidharth ji had said. In fact, I also agree with Sidharth ji that there are a lot of synergies that need to be explored. In fact, one of the things I request Sidharth ji to use his good offices. I've spoken to Piyush Goyal ji as well. But I think what would be extremely important for a country like India. And I'm not talking as a minister of Telangana, but I'm speaking as an Indian citizen who wants to see a very prosperous and industrial country. Sir, I think it would be extremely important for us to have a joint working group of ministers, from the states, represented from various parts of the country. I've requested Piyush ji to look into this because I think it's important from the country's strategic interest, to have us focus on various sectors and, go after certain investments in a certain fashion, look at certain, regions as well, which are, trying to see, for example, Japan is encouraging a lot of its companies, to move away from China and invest in other parts of the world, and also giving incentives. So maybe a group of ministers, representing India can travel, can actually meet with the prospective investors and say that anywhere you invest is fine as long as you invest in India. I think that should be the spirit, which unfortunately today is lacking because all of us work in silos and, we are all representing our own states. While I understand, government of India is doing its bit, it's important for us as a country also not to lose this advantage. So that's the one thing I wanted to put out. And I love the point about plug and play infra from Subhash Desai ji. I think that's the need of the hour, because private sector and industry by itself cannot be investing large sums of large amount of investment. So government of India, in fact, should come to the rescue of the states, empower us by way of, loans or, by way of grants, which will help us enable, creation of large mega parks with plug and play facilities so that we can attract investments in a big way. That's the second thing I wanted to put out. And now going back to your question, Dilip, about what do we do to our existing investors so that they stay put and not look elsewhere is what I think the question was. Dilip, I think what's important is not just ease of doing business. Ease of doing business, of course, is important. Ease of entry is important. But three more things are equally important. I would say, in fact, once you've achieved, once you've met all the check boxes on ease of doing business, then three more things are important. The second point I would say is the bringing down the cost of doing business, because in India, compared to other countries in the world, the cost of doing business is still quite high. Now we need to bring that down significantly, be it on the land cost, be it on the capital expenses that an industry has to incur. We have to lower that significantly, and if we really have to remain competitive. The other thing we also need to be focused on is quality of doing business, which unfortunately, again, is something that not a lot of governments have been focused on. It's equally important to focus on the quality of doing business because, like I said, you're not just competing with other states, you're competing with the rest of the world. So you really have to elevate your game in terms of the services that you offer as a government. And also, for instance, in Telangana, what we do to that effect is we have created a book, directory, of potential joint venture opportunities for an investor who's coming in, validated by the government so that it becomes easy to choose a joint venture partner, etc. The third point I'd like to make is if an existing investor has a problem and wants to exit, we also need to have a good exit mechanism, a good dispute redressal mechanism, so that any potential dispute also can be redressed quickly. It's not just ease of entry, it's also ease of exit. That's equally important. So therefore, all these three things put together, lowering the cost of doing business, improving the quality of doing business, making it easy for dispute redressal, will also ensure that your existing customers remain happy. And Dilip, with the kind of approach that we've taken, existing customers, existing investors, whenever they wanted to expand, they've only chosen our state. But like I said, even if they wanted to move to UP or Gujarat or Maharashtra, happy to assist because, after all, it's all going to be in our country.
Thank you. So, Mr. Sidharth Singh, if you could just take the same question, another 2 minutes to you before you wrap up the session. You have to unmute yourself, sir, please.
Well, I think I would certainly would admit that yes, now the time has come. As I said, that plug-and-play system is something at 5 parks we have introduced in UP. This needs to be expanded, and the government of India can support us. That will be a great initiative. And I think there is another, we have to move, which UP is preparing a policy along with the Invest India. That is a step ahead of the SEZ system that is called bonded manufacturing system. So we are working on the bonded manufacturing. That would lessen the burden on an industry on the capital investment, or you can say the working capital would be, there will be a less burden on that. And there has to be a very collective approach, and I come back to where I ended from. We do really need to bring a very collective approach because let's understand that the investment scenario throughout the world has changed after pandemic. Now, there is an opportunity. Now, if I am an investor and I go and I see that, okay, because of my size of investment, I can play around with certain countries and they would give me and make them compete and try to keep bringing them down. That's exactly what is happening in India. And I meet a lot of investors now. They say, oh, Gujarat is saying this, they are doing this, Hyderabad is doing that. So I say, okay, now I look up at their investment policy for that particular sector. I say, fair, I will do better. At the end of the day, it's a loss for India, not for anybody else. So that's where the synergies need to be brought in. So we should be picking our sectors. That should be a premium sector. And then let's say we can still attract other industries also. It's not going to be easy what I have proposed. But yes, if we have an open mind, perhaps we may come for us towards a solution, and center has to play a very role. But it's not going to be easy because every state has their own policy, their own interest. But at the end of the day, we all work for India so that we make India a more attractive destination together.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's been a very enlightening session. But before I end, I get Aman to speak. I just want to recognize that each of the states will be in the PAFI, and all of us have been helped by your Additional Chief Secretary, whether it's Alok Kumar in UP, whether Manoj Das in Gujarat, or Venugopal Reddy in Maharashtra, or Shri Jayesh Ranjan, the Principal Secretary. So your teams have been very, very supportive. Thank you for being with us this morning. May I now hand over to Mr. Aman Jain.
Thank you, Dilip. Absolute pleasure being here, and incredibly wonderfully enlightening session, and an opportunity to learn from some of the best states in India. At Google, I lead government affairs and public policy, and our mission has always been to make the internet alive helpful for 1 billion Indians, and our commitment to India is seen by the recent announcement that we've made of the $10 billion fund. We've always partnered each of the state governments that I mentioned here. We work deeply with them, and we've always looked at state governments as a wonderful opportunity for us to solve for unique challenges in India. So without taking too much time of our listeners, I'd just like to, on behalf of PAFI as well, thank all the panelists, thank Mr. K.D. Ramarao, Mr. Sidharth Nath Singh, Mr. Desai, and Mr. Patel, who unfortunately couldn't be with us live. Thank all of them for their time, and I also request all the viewers who are tuned in to stick on. The next session should start very, very soon. Thank you very much all for what's been a very good, enlightening session.
Thank you.